Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Mind Matters, breaking the silence in legal spaces. This is a new broadcast brought to you by ACEDS and MCG. We'll get into what that is and who that is in a minute. But first, I want to introduce my co-host, Jeff Hirvela. Jeff, how we doing?
Doing good, my friend. Thanks for being here in our inaugural episode. I got to say, shout outs to the production team for the opening sequence there. This is like professional and polished. So I feel a need to maintain this level of like polish for the rest of this, which I'm probably going to butcher, but very excited about this conversation.
Yeah. Well, you and me both. We'll see if we can keep it up. So there we go. For anyone tuning in, today's episode is starting the conversation, our stories, our why. And we're going to tell you why we're here and what we're doing. Welcome to the inaugural episode. We hope to do this every month. We hope to have a special guest. I want to start by acknowledging the very end of Mental Health Awareness Month, which is the month of May. And so that's part of why we're here. But there's a bigger story to be told. Jeff and I have been talking for months, honestly, about doing something like this. And we wanted to bring together these two organizations, ACEDS, obviously, for those, many know who that is. Many may not know who MCG is. So I'm going to say, Jeff, tell us a little bit about MCG just to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mike. So MCG is an organization that my good friend Steve McCann over in the UK started. I know Steve through recovery, and we've been friends over the years. And he's from our space. He's from our e-discovery space, and decided to pivot to fully supporting his mentor / addiction and recovery awareness program through MCG, which stands for Mentor, Connect, Grow. So I'll explain more as we go on and throughout the episodes, and eventually we can get Steve on the line. But my day job, my primary job is in e-discovery. I work with Epic, and MCG is an organization that really speaks to my background and what I'm trying to give a voice to in the addiction and recovery community, but also the greater picture of wellness.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And for anyone who doesn't know, I'm Mike Quartararo, the president of the Association of Certified E-Discovery Specialists. We are, I'd like to say, the world's leading organization for training and certification in electronic discovery. And obviously, we'll talk more about ACEDS and our mission and purpose and MCG. And our goal today, I think, really, and I'll let Jeff speak for himself, but is really to talk about issues of wellness, of sobriety, of helping to reduce the stigma and build some solidarity around issues that impact our work lives, our personal lives, our relationships, everything that goes on in human life, frankly, that impacts our how we do things. And this is for anybody in legal. It's not. In fact, it's for anybody anywhere. I don't even want to confine it to legal. Where our goal is really to just share stories, and hopefully those stories, if anybody saw my post over the past week, stories sometimes help people heal. And that's why they say a good country song is 3 chords and a story, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to echo what you're saying, Mike, I think that today is going to be unique in that we're going to be sharing our story, our why, our reason why we're doing this. What I'm excited about is there's so many people in our space. They're already doing amazing things. And I'm excited to get them on the show and give them a spotlight, give them a chance to share their message, what they're doing. I've in my story of recovery, like I've thought about how it impacts, myself, my family, my loved ones, people I work with. And there's so much that, we have such a tight knit community within the e-discovery space, but like you said, this is like evergreen conversations that apply to anyone. So while our focus is like people we know and love and work with, it's also, just conversations that apply to anyone. And so that's kind of my excitement around this. Like I'm not an expert on any one area. I'm just an enthusiast, and I'm looking forward to meeting awesome people and sharing their stories and learning more.
And it's about being a little bit vulnerable too, right? Sharing your personal journey, right? And that's a perfect transition to Jeff's story, right? What is Jeff's story? Um, and we wanted to make sure that we went first, right? That
Yeah.
we shared our journeys first, and mine's a little bit different from yours. But why don't we start with you? Uh,
Yeah.
Tell us about Jeff's journey to sobriety.
Thanks, Mike. And yeah, this is unique. I do share my story a lot, but I don't share it in a professional setting, and that's why aligning with a group like MCG really called to me, because the focus of that organization, of the organization, is the professional context of sobriety, and like how important that is for people to be able to feel comfortable to share their story and to speak out. So my story, I could go on forever about my war stories in my past, but I can keep it simple in that I always kind of had a feeling that I was not good enough. I had a lot of negative self-talk. Um, I did not have a rough childhood. I did not have abusive, parents. I did not have situations in my childhood where, I could say, if you had my childhood, you'd drink too. But I always had this negative self-talk going on in the back of my head, and it would just kind of be there from a young age with friends. Didn't think I was good enough. Didn't think I was interesting enough. When I got to high school, I discovered alcohol. And I'll be honest, the first time I had a drink, I drank alcoholically. Friends were making mixed drinks with gin. I grabbed the handle of gin and drank from it, and kind of continued that way for the remainder of my using career. The crazy thing about alcoholism is that it does kind of work. I was able to get into like the cool crowds and hang out with the people that I thought I wanted to be around by being this person I thought they wanted me to be. The effects of it, though, the negative self-talk was amplified by the hangovers, by the things I would do when I was using, and the regrets I would have. And so it began this spiral of like this loop of like I would go out and have drinks and think that I was the life of the party, and then have regrets the next day, have a hangover the next day. I hope people like me. My people pleasing is like a big part of my story. And that kind of amplified over time and just escalated. So I drank through college, I drank through my career. I would say I found jobs that allowed me to maintain my drinking and my using. Drug use is a part of my story as well. Being in sales, I was always entertaining, always bringing clients out. And so on the professional setting, which is kind of the focus here, on paper, it kind of worked. It like did the thing, and I was able to take clients out. Now, the reality is I would kind of use the clients as the scapegoat. I would stay out. I know, Mike, we've seen each other out. You've seen me on both sides of this. You saw me when I was in my active using. You saw me, since then. And I would tell you it's my job. I have to do this. But I would use it as an excuse and stay out. I was able to mask it by high performance. And based on, I'm in sales, my numbers look good. So I deserve this. I've earned this. Right. Y'all need to let me have my space. And that was something I would tell myself, my colleagues, my family, not really cognizant of the damage I was doing. So for me, my bottom happened around 2017. 2016 was the last like really bad year for me. All the things that I got from alcohol that I thought that I got from alcohol. So I started to lose. I lost a marriage. I started to lose time with my kids. I started to lose job opportunities. I didn't lose everything. And that's a message here too. You don't have to lose everything to have a problem. I was on my way to losing everything. And I got to a point where I said, you know what? I need help. I can't do this on my own. I'm done with this. But I didn't know how to change. There were many days and mornings where I'd look in the mirror and be like, this is it. This is all I'm going to do. I don't have another way of life. But I was able to hit my bottom and raise my hand and say, I need help. Now, what the help looked like for me was a 12-step program. It's not for everyone, but that is where I found structure and a program for living a different way. And so I'll kind of transition to what it's like now. I thought that would be my weakness. I thought if I can't drink, if I can't hang out with my colleagues, my peers, and show them that I'm a fun guy, that I would lose everything and I would be an uninteresting, lame salesperson. And the truth couldn't be further from it. I still go to events. I just duck out at a reasonable hour. I don't need to be the last person there anymore. And I never need to be the last person there. Nothing good happens after 12, sometimes after 10, Yeah. So I am still active and participating. I'm more present. I used to sit in meetings when I was using and be fearful, just riddled with fear of someone calling on me to ask for my opinion, because I thought they would see right through me and know I was a complete phony. Now I have similar fears. Like I still, don't have all the answers, but I'm okay saying, you know what? I don't know that, but I'll find out for you. Or I find that I actually do have a voice and I can contribute. So there's a lot to pack into the short, overview of the story here. But all the things that I was afraid I would lose were the things that I was losing anyways. They were the things that I was, my disease, my using was taking away from me. And I have regained my confidence and like myself, back to the negative self-talk. That still comes up, but I have tools, I have resources. And we'll talk about those in a moment, but like I have a different way of life now. And I'm someone I'm proud of now. And doing this with you, Mike, is a big part of that. So I've gotten a lot out of sobriety. And this for me is a chance to give back, to share my story and let people know I was there. I'm speaking from experience. This is not trying to placate and trying to give you guys word of mouth. I've been there and I'm interested in learning about healing. I'm still healing. I'm still learning. And that's my story and my mission here. So.
And I just said, I'm proud of you. It's so incredibly important and really hard to change. I know this, and you can't see it because we're on camera, but there are tears welling up in my eyes when I listen to you tell your story, because it's so important to so many people. And it may not be the masses, right? But it affects a number of people that are struggling, and everybody's bottom is different. And just to give everybody a little bit of my story is, not so much one of recovery, but of having this sort of perspective of standing on the outside looking in. I come from a family of alcoholics. I come from a family of drug users. I still drink. I don't use a lot of drugs, but I have been able to control it. And I think that's an important part of it too. Like I know when to stop. I know, like to your point, 10 o'clock. All right, let's go to bed. Let's not overdo it. Let's, but not everybody has that discipline. And I'm not saying I'm the most disciplined person in the world. And the reality is that, and it took me many years to understand how alcohol was affecting my life, and I needed to make an adjustment. And look, I'm still addicted to smoking. I cannot stop smoking. So I clearly have, and they say it's somewhat biological. You get it from, if your family is addicted or experiencing difficulties in this space, it carries over. And I don't know that it's biological. I don't know the science behind it. We could probably get an expert to come on and do that for us. But I do know that it's behavioral, it's environmental. You adopt what you saw. My folks drank and drank and drank. And it's funny because my mother was a full-blown alcoholic, and she stopped drinking, and that ruined her marriage. The act of stopping drinking, which is weird. Most people look at it like you did, like this is affecting my life in other ways. She realized she had to make a change. She made that change, and it started to change other things in her life, because she didn't fit with my dad or family members or friends who they hung out with who all drank, and she couldn't drink anymore. So she felt like she didn't fit. But there's other things we're going to talk about too. I don't want to just focus on recovery and addiction and alcoholism. I've I've been pretty open about, some of my own personal health issues. Last year, I had a heart attack on an airplane. Um, my wife, who had been sick for many, many years, passed away. We were married for 37 years. It was incredibly difficult. It's been about 8 months now, and so I'm coming out of some of that. And so I just wanted to share and be a little vulnerable too, because I think it's important that people understand where we're coming from. The You have to accept the fact that you're going to be vulnerable, that you have to be able to, like you said, put your hand up and say, I need help. And, the people, my friends around me, my family, and everybody supported me in the last year in ways that, and it's like recovering from alcoholism. Having that support system is so critical. And so I want to talk about that. And it's also about mental health, right? I spent many, 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 many months in therapy talking about why did I have a heart attack? How do I deal with my wife's death? And look, sobriety and everything that came up, because one of the reasons I went is because I know I'm killing myself every time I smoke a cigarette. Why can't I stop smoking? Right? It doesn't like mentally, I had to figure this out. And so I've got some strategies now that I'm working on. That's what kind of brings me. So I'm not in the same shoes as you, but I'm adjacent. And I think together we can have a fulsome conversation here about what this all means and how people can get the help that they need, whether it's a mental health issue, alcoholism, drug addiction, smoking, dealing with grief, all those things. So it's an open book for us. In terms of timing, we've got to move on here a little bit. Let's talk, Jeff, a little bit about sort of the stigma that comes with this. Like, it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed to tell people I still smoke. We all know it's killing us, right?
Yeah.
But tell us about, like, in your situation, how do you deal with the stigma? Is it embarrassing? Are you?
So it's funny. At first, I just want to acknowledge, Mike, like, thank you for sharing that, especially about your wife, and my heart goes out to you. That's the kind of, like, real vulnerability and the real conversation to let people know it's okay to share and to admit it's not okay. It's one thing I tell my kids. I tell, like, people that, I know, it's like, don't just say things are okay. Don't just think I'm fine. Like, that's BS. Like, you need to talk to someone. If it's not me, talk to someone and, like, tell them what's really going on. So thank you for saying that, because that is leading with example. And I think that is a huge thing to address, is grief and side effects of that. So to your
Grief,
question,
yeah, grief is not just from losing a loved one.
Yeah,
Grief could be from losing a job,
absolutely,
from upsetting a friend.
absolutely.
It could be any number of things. It impacts how we think and approach everything we do every day. And as leaders in the space, like, how do you maintain that leadership? How do you
Yeah.
maintain your management skills? How do you interact with the people that work with and for you? It's a whole transformation that you have to go through. It's fascinating to understand.
Yeah, and I think having the right resources to process those and bring your best self back to the job, and those around you, like, they'll know when you're taking action and working on yourself. You'll show up different. You can't help but do so. To your question about the stigma around, if we're talking specifics around the drinking, I'll give you this example. I used to go to conferences and, be one of the last ones out of the bars, and I prided myself on that, right? I was very proud that people knew that. Oh, there's that Jeff guy. He's pretty crazy. Now that I'm
I was right there with you.
now that I'm sober, I find that I sneak off to go to a meeting. And by meeting, I mean like a 12-step, or people within the industry. We talk about it, but we're almost like, we don't want people to know that we're doing this. And the irony is, like, why? Like, this is actually, we're better. We're doing better for ourselves. We're healthier. We're taking healthy action. But I have a stigma around just saying I go for help with other places. I think because so many of us grew up with, you just figure it out. It's
Yeah.
just discipline. It's just, you got to tough it out. And the reality is some things like alcoholism can be genetic. Some things like addictions in general can be genetic. You're predisposed to having an addictive personality. It ran in my family, but it's not everyone's affected. So we need to look at it as it's a condition, it's a disease, it's something that, you know, does need to be treated, but not, you know, I guess we want to celebrate and acknowledge people that are doing things to better themselves. And it's funny because like we talk a lot about that. Wellness is like the buzzword, right?
Yeah.
But there's still this like stigma around doing things like that. I feel goofy. I feel silly that I say I do these things sometimes. And
I used to feel, Jeff, the same way about going to therapy,
yeah.
because
Yes.
in some circles, I think more so in masculine circles, it suggests that you're weak, you can't manage, you can't control. But you know, the reality is we all need someone to talk to. When I think about the loss of my wife, what I miss the most is having someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part. I don't have anybody, and I have friends now that have taken that space. And things like this, programs like this have filled that space. It gives me somebody to talk to. That's you know, people think, oh, he's in therapy, he must be damaged goods or something. I don't see it that way. I'm in therapy because it helps me. It makes me better. It makes me a better, more productive person. It clears my mind. It helps me to understand things from an outside perspective. Because to your point earlier, you spent a lot of time in your life wondering, am I good enough? And you know what? I'm here to tell you, damn it, you're good enough. You did it. You're at the top of your game, frankly, in this business. I like to think that I'm pretty close. And that's because of the things that we've done, the way we've exposed ourselves and gotten the help that we need. That's what makes you a good leader. And in an environment where everybody seems to be working nonstop,
Yeah.
and striving for perfection. There's so much burnout in our industry. The legal industry is notorious for taking people down, whether it's because of an addiction or just because of physical stress and burnout.
Yeah.
And so you've got to have strategies to deal with that.
Yeah, some quick numbers on that too, because I think part of this show we'll share what trends we're hearing, what things we're
Sure,
reading, seeing
absolutely.
in the industry. So, talking broader than just addiction, reduced productivity linked to anxiety and depression, total for 12 billion working days lost globally every year. So around the world, people that are afflicted by anxiety and depression are not present at work or not going to work, and it affects 12 billion working days, an estimated cost of $1 trillion per year in lost productivity.
That's
So this
crazy.
is like a real, if we're looking at like the actual like numbers and statistics, this is not just, hey, we should, try to be better for ourselves. Like this is real like financial impact. And interestingly enough, like 93% of junior lawyers feel stress at work. I think, anyone entry level is feeling stressed. So like that's a human thing, but like 1 in 4 are saying they're extremely stressed. And then as it relates to alcohol, 1 in 5 lawyers screen positive for a drinking problem. And that's from the ABA. That's from the Journal of Addiction Medicine. So like we're having these conversations because that's a alarmingly high number. And yes, there's a lot of awareness happening around it. I think the important thing that back to the point of this is bringing on people that are actually doing stuff about this in their respective fields and like within our community.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing we want to try to talk about, Jeff shared some stats there. We're going to try to bring some resources every week. So people have solutions. You don't have to listen to us. Go, find an expert that works for you. Find a friend, family member, whatever. So we'll try to come with some strategies that'll give people some tools and resources to respond to their own personal situation. We've got about 5 minutes, and I want to talk a little bit about sort of where we're going. I don't have a preview of next month's show other than to say we're going to have a guest, and we're going to hear their story. Everybody who comes on the program, and anyone who's listening who wants to come on the story, on the show and share their story, should be prepared for that. Not everybody wants to, there's a saying in AA, and to be clear, I am very familiar with the AA format of things. I was an Alateen attendee and then an Al-Anon attendee, because I was, even as a young person, trying to figure out, like, how do I navigate this situation. And so I'm very familiar with the 12-step programs. And so we'll obviously talk about some of those things over time. But we want to have a guest every month. And we just really want to raise awareness and continue the conversation and stay open to people. I want to be clear, I'm not an addiction specialist.
Yeah.
I don't think that you consider yourself either, but you've got a story to tell, and if that story helps somebody, that works, right?
Yeah, and I think part of it too is sharing the resources that we use. And Mike, you named a few like great organizations that you've used in your past. You mentioned having a therapist. Like, I'll share as well. Outside of my 12-step program, I have a therapist as well. I think that addresses an entire different aspect of mental health, and I find both extremely valuable. Practical, a big thing about me, I'm a big runner. So I have, like, on top of like these things that I do, I think it's important to have outlets in your life that give you some like challenge, give you some, goal to set. Every year for running, I set a crazy goal that terrifies me, and I train for it and do my best to accomplish it. And that's like a big part of my mental well-being. So like, I think all these different aspects of how we treat, our pasts, our stories to be the best version of ourselves are equally important. And then resources you were mentioning, like, use what's in place. There's lawyer assistance programs, there's employee assistance programs, there's programs like MCG, which I'm very fond of. We offer confidential, resources, building out talks and programs within organizations to address addiction, but also mentor programs. So like, there's a lot, and we're going to have a lot of guests come on with different backgrounds and different solutions. I think that's an important thing to highlight. It's the story, and it's also the solution. We want to be a solution oriented, like, live stream and talk about like what's going on out there. And so one of them being like Mind Budget within our own community, a great organization that's been started to address burnout. Again, like, these are all real conversations and people that we know. Most of y'all probably know who runs that organization. Like, yep. So you'll see familiar faces, and that'll be exciting to see people.
And we're going to have them on. We're going to have them on. We've got
absolutely
lining up guests now. And I just want to say, because somebody might be asking, why is ACEDS doing this? I mean, it's less about ACEDS, but I will tell you what's special about ACEDS. For anyone who doesn't know, ACEDS is about community. And I don't think you can deal with wellness or addiction, recovery, mental stress, anxiety without community. And so the alignment here is that ACEDS is about community, and these problems, these issues we're dealing with are about community. And so that's what this is really about. And so we're at time, pretty close. I wanted to get a closing thought from you, Jeff.
I'm just grateful. Mike, thanks for when I approached you, ironically, at a bar and said, let's do it like one session. You said, forget that. Let's do a series. Like, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Maribel. Thank you, all of ACEDS. Thank you, everyone listening, my MCG folks, everyone that's contributed. Just gratitude. Thank you.
I appreciate it. And so everybody, thanks for joining us. We are just getting started. This is a heavy, deep, and intense topic. I am interested in taking on the challenge. I know that Jeff is too. We've talked multiple times about what this could be. And so I'm happy to do it. Let's keep showing up for one another.
Amen. One step at a time. Thanks.